Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MetrObelisk Radio. Today, I am introducing a new series that will be on the channel. I am going to do a retrospective on Firefly. Now, to get that started, I just wanted to get some things out of the way first. That way, when this thing gets started with episode 1, we can just jump right into the show. But before we get started, make sure to check out the blog, MetrObeliskRadio.blogspot.com, where you can find the corresponding blog post with this episode, along with the PDFs of my presentation files if you wish to download them for your personal use. Now, what exactly are we going to cover in the introduction episode to the Firefly Retrospective? Well, I wanted to give a brief overview of Firefly, more specifically, Joss Whedon's background, and just the overall history of the show. And then I wanted to go into what my introduction to Firefly was. And finally, I'm going to end this with what you should expect from this series. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, to kick off this introduction, we need to look at the man, the myth, the legend, the creator of Firefly, Joss Whedon himself. Born in New York City on June 23rd of 1964, he is a third-generation writer. His father, Tom Whedon, wrote for TV sitcoms Alice and The Golden Girls. His grandfather, John Whedon, worked on The Donna Reed Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Joss Whedon would start off as a staff writer on the sitcoms Roseanne and Parenthood. Now, he also did write for movies at that time. There are some movies that he did not get credited for, and those examples would be The Getaway, Speed, Waterworld, and Twister. Now, the most notable movies that he's credited for are Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Alien Resurrection, Toy Story, and Titan A.E. In 1997, however, he created the show that would launch his name, Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. The success of that show did lead to the spin-off Angel. He's also created other shows you might have heard of, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Dollhouse. Now, most of you might know him from directing The Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, if Buffy didn't make his name known, the MCU sure did. Now let's move on to the history of the show. Firefly went on the air on Fox back in September of 2002 and only lasted until that December. Of the 14 episodes made, only 11 aired, and the last 3 episodes didn't air until 2003 when the Sci-Fi Network picked up the show and released it in the UK. Now, this show was doomed from the start, and to make my point, I will start with the marketing. The marketing for this show wasn't that of a sci-fi drama or a western set in space. Instead, it was advertised as an offbeat comedy set in space. I will leave a link for the original Fox promo in the description, in the show notes, or on the blog post wherever you're seeing this. And another thing that a lot of fans bring up is the fact that the episodes were aired out of order. The first episode to air was actually called The Train Job. That was the second episode of the series. And that 2-part pilot, Serenity, was the last episode to ever air on Fox. Now, this show did have a fan base after it premiered. The fans led a postcard writing campaign to the UPN network at the time to revive the series. That was a failure. However, it did lead to Universal being persuaded to make the movie Serenity in 2005. Now, after the movie, the story of Firefly would continue on in the comic books. So my introduction to Firefly was actually sort of a weird one. I first saw the movie Serenity back in 2012 or 2013. It was one of those years I can't remember. I just remember being in high school when I first saw it. I didn't think it was a bad movie at the time, but I felt like I was missing something. Then I went to a science fiction convention in Colorado called Starfest, and I hooked up with a couple friends of mine and told them about Serenity. After I told them about what I thought of it, the first question they asked me is, have you seen Firefly? And my first question to them was, what the hell is Firefly? That's when they told me it was the show that the movie picked up from. I then went, okay, and decided to check it out. Now, I actually didn't watch the show until 2018, because that's when I finally found the time to sit down and watch it between college and just other shows I was watching at the time, like Sons of Anarchy, Vikings, Game of Thrones, and even that 70s show. Now we're getting to the main topic of this introductory episode, and that is what you can expect from the series. Now, this is going to be a series where we do a breakdown of each episode and get into the nitty-gritty in terms of character, story, and even taking a look at the creators behind the episode's director and writer, or writers to be more specific. After we look at all 14 episodes of the series, we will look at the 2005 movie Serenity, since that picked up where the series left off. And then finally, we will end it with an overall series breakdown, including the movie, and give the series either a soft recommendation, mild recommendation, or solid recommendation for people that have never seen Firefly. Including this episode, this series will contain a total of 17 episodes of us discussing both Firefly, the series, and Serenity, the movie. Normally, I would end with the recommendation of what shows or movies you should probably watch to get an understanding if you would like Firefly or not. Now, the two that come to my head is one movie franchise and one TV series. That movie franchise being Alien, at least up through Alien Resurrection, and that TV series being Cowboy Bebop. Now, I recommend the Alien franchise because there are some similarities from those movies with the series. I really don't want to go into it too deep right now because that's going to be part of my analysis in this series later on. So let's move on to Cowboy Bebop. Now, I recommend Cowboy Bebop because it's a show that has a very similar tone. It follows the spaceship crew of bounty hunters. Even though the Firefly crew aren't bounty hunters, I still recommend giving Cowboy Bebop a shot, unless if you don't like anime. If you don't like anime, then I wouldn't waste your time on this. I know I kept this episode brief. I just wanted to get this stuff out of the way before we actually talked about the show. I didn't want to pad out the time with the first episode just talking about all of the stuff that you already know if you're a fan or don't know if you've never seen the show. I just wanted to get right into the show when I talk about the show in the first episode, which will be Serenity. I hope that you guys stick around for this 17-episode series coming to the channel. It should be a lot of fun.